Every snap is an interview.
After the Snap.
What a snap.
Hey, keep your mouth shut, 50!
I lead by example.
With Blake and Reed Ferguson, discussing life in, out, and after football.
To be able to leave walking away with a degree and a championship, it couldn't be any better.
Yeah!
Well, you can take this boy out the real South on but you can't take the real South out of my voice. And now here we go again, twist a little bit deeper because I got thick skin.
So, Reed, coming out of this last weekend's NFL draft, we didn't necessarily set any records as far as specialists go, but it was a pretty big-time specialist draft. Cade York, our boy from LSU, was drafted in the 4th round along with 2 other punters. And I guess my question is LSU becoming specialist U? I mean, you've got 3 in the league right now, and a pretty strong history of putting specialists in the league.
Yeah, I mean, I think the easy answer is probably yes. I don't know if there's any other team that's got more than, any other college that's got more than 2. I mean, off the top of my head, I can't think of any. But yeah, pretty cool. I mean, to have 3 active guys in the league, as of Saturday. So congratulations to Cade. Like I said, pretty cool. It's a cool thing to be a part of, and a great program to come from that kind of taught us the way with Brad Wing, Donnie Jones, just to name a couple guys that played for a while in the league. But yeah, pretty cool.
I also saw where Georgia has now either tied or set the record for draft picks. I mean, my 2019 team class, I guess in the 2020 draft, I think we had 14 guys drafted that year, which I don't know if it tied or set the record, but Georgia beat us by 1. And it's really not surprising seeing the talent that they had this past season running all over the field, especially on defense. You got guys, Trayvon Walker, Jordan Davis. And I was talking to one of our defensive line coaches, and he was saying that the best player on that defense wasn't even drafted. So, it'll be interesting to see how they do, given, how we have performed I guess LSU has performed, losing that big of a group of guys to the NFL draft. It doesn't sound like that they're particularly worried about it. They've still got a ton of talent, but so did LSU. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, definitely interesting to keep track of. I mean, obviously LSU, not a great year. It's been difficult to be a Tiger fan the last 2 years, admittedly. But yeah, it will be interesting. I mean, for a program, the way Kirby Smart is running it down there, it's easy to say that they'll probably just reload instead of rebuild. And as you mentioned, their best player, it seems, from a coach's perspective, is still there playing. So pretty wild that they would have that many guys. A good majority of their defense getting drafted and playing to that that draft record number, and for them to still reload and be as legit as they were last year, because that was as it's close. I think all the media people were saying it was as close to an NFL defense as you could get in college, and I think that showed over the draft. But it'll be interesting to see.
Another note on specialists in this draft: there were no long snappers taken, which I believe is like the first time since like 2014 or 2015 that has happened.
Since 14, yeah.
And we
came out in a row.
We came out of the draft last year with two long snappers taken, and we said, hopefully this is a turning point. Hopefully this is building for long snappers to potentially be drafted. It's going in the wrong direction. But there were some good opportunities for some undrafted free agents to sign after the draft. Hopefully next year we will get back on track and have a couple of snappers drafted. Last thing of note on the NFL draft from this past weekend, there was only one quarterback drafted in the first round. And for me, this was interesting because for the last at least couple of years, we've seen so many quarterbacks go number one overall or in the top few picks. The first 5 picks this year were all defensive players. So I guess this was really more of a defensive minded draft overall.
Yeah, it's hard. I don't do a ton of like draft research. Is really just from kind of what I see on social media, which is obviously you know, a lot more focused on kind of the top 10 guys, right? You know that in the last week or so, you know, the news broke, the betting odds and stuff were all like, well, in all, you know, you kind of see last Tuesday or last Monday, whenever it was, it's just like, oh, well, all of a sudden Trayvon Walker is, you know, the betting odds to be the number 1 draft pick. And it's like, I mean, I watch a lot of LSU football. I watch a little bit of the generic college football. I can't say I knew who he was. And I heard his name and I'm like, well, I thought this dude from Michigan was going to be right. He's been like the consensus number 1 this whole time. And then it's just like, oh, well, draft week. Well, this guy tested really well at the combine and he's the betting favorite to be, you know, the number 1 pick. And what do you know? Thursday night rolls around 8:30 and the pick is in and it's Trayvon Walker. So, and, you know, great for him, great for his family. You know, somebody knew something.
Yeah. Admittedly, I don't either. I don't really know a whole lot about the, you know, I don't do a lot of research into the draft. That's just not something that you or I do, but it does seem like there's always this, like there's like one tweet or one little, you know, one person on TV on NFL Network that puts out this little buzz and then it just becomes this wildfire and then all of a sudden, like it was when Kyler Murray went first overall, like he was that entire lead up to that draft, he was too short. He was 5'9" or whatever at the combine and he was too short, this and that. And then all of a sudden, boom, like right before the draft, somebody, Tom Pelissero or somebody put out a tweet and then boom, he's all of a sudden the betting favorite for the number 1 pick. So it's weird the way that the draft works sometimes, but overall, I think it was a good draft, just maybe in some different positions, a lot more defensive players gone this year, especially early. So switching gears a little bit, in the baseball world, Reed, you and I were sharing some tweets back and forth in our baseball boys group, and there was a tweet from B_outliers that raised both of our eyebrows. Each of our eyebrows. I don't know how to say that.
Eyebrows were raised.
2 of the 4 eyebrows that you and I possess were raised. And the tweet says, did MLB switch the balls back yesterday to what they were before? From opening day, April 7th to Thursday, April 28th, there were on average 22 home runs hit per day across the league. Yesterday, April 29th, there were 44 home runs hit in one day. That's double the average, and no other day has come close to that. Did they go back to the juiced baseballs?
I mean, it's just from an ethics standpoint. I mean, it's widely known that MLB bought the company that makes the baseballs so that they could control which baseballs are being used. It's just to me, the ethics of it is super sketch. I mean, it's well documented that even last season they used the juice balls and the dead balls kind of for roughly half the season, I believe is what I've seen a few times, which is just crazy. I mean, the fact that you can somebody can make a call and, switch up the balls for a series or a few games or the weekend games, whatever it is. And, you get, you probably raise the runs scored per game by, 2 or 3. I mean, that's a big influence on the teams playing, the pitchers, statistics. I mean, not to mention people that, like people that bet on games and stuff. Like, wouldn't you want to know if the team that you're betting on is playing with juice balls or not? Right? Like, wouldn't that, I feel like that's like getting super in the weeds, but like, that's a real thing that like people think about. Like, money's on the line. Like, people bet on baseball. Like, that's a real, like, sports betting is huge now. So like the ethics of it, I'm just speaking from an ethics standpoint. If that happened in football and they're just like, well, like the K-ball situation, right? Like, we get our K-balls to use. We get 6 for the game. Each team gets 3, and you get an hour the morning of the game to break in, or, a certain time before the game for your equipment, one of your equipment guys to go break in the footballs to use for that game. We don't see them. We don't touch them. We don't snap with them. We don't throw with them. We don't get to warm up with them at all. The first time we're putting our hands on them is the first snap of the game, whether it's a punt or a field goal, extra point. I mean, you name it. That's the first time we see that ball. And sometimes those balls are not ideal. The NFL, I mean, obviously, I've put some stuff out, like just asking on Twitter, just putting it out there. Like, the NFL uses different footballs for playoff games. They use different footballs for the first part of the regular season. Yep. They use different footballs for October, which is the cancer awareness month. They have the logos on the footballs. Crucial catch. Yep. They have different footballs.
They use different ones.
They have different
for
footballs
the London
for
games.
to service. London games, like, it's not all the same footballs. It's crazy to me.
Yep.
Use the same footballs, because that affects kickers and snappers and punters, and it's bananas to me. I mean, changing juice balls. If you add juice balls in for a weekend series, I mean, that's like, for one weekend in the NFL, we use, like, I don't even know, grippier footballs or something. And they're like you put on here, on April 29th, there were 44 homers. That's double, literally double. That is insane. Double the amount of homers across the league on that day as there had been at daily average up to that point in the season. That's like putting grippier footballs for one weekend, and you've got your quarterback that throws for 2 touchdowns and he throws for 5.
Yep.
Right. Like, everybody throws for 1 to 2 more touchdowns. Like, you have every score of the game of every game goes up by like 15 points. Yeah. Like, that's bananas. Yeah. Bananas.
I guess the way I look at it is if they're going to do the juiced baseballs thing, keep it consistent. Don't have
they did a couple years ago,
right?
And it was great. They broke the home run record.
But they came out and said, I think it was in the playoffs that year, they came out and said, yes, we manipulated the baseballs in a way that more home runs would be hit and they would, go farther. And then this year, there's been this idea of the dead baseballs because they're not flying as far. There's less home runs after a couple consecutive years of really high home run numbers. So I guess what I'm saying is, if you're going to do it, just keep it consistent. Don't, people watch more baseball when they have the juiced baseballs. If you want to keep the viewership high, keep putting the juiced baseballs in. Don't start with dead baseballs and then move into it and then move back. Just keep it consistent, at least for the betting odds and just for viewership in general, because a lot of people like watching baseball when there are home runs. Joining us on After the Snap this week, we have country artist, superstar, huge Dolphins fan, and Chattanooga native, Larry Fleet, joining us. First of all, Larry, thank you for coming on the pod this week. And let's just start from the very beginning. When did you pick up a guitar? How did you get your start in music?
Well, I guess I picked a guitar up about 5 years old, and then my great uncle, he used to play, and so after church and stuff, we would always go to their house and sit on the back porch, and he could play, and then like my couple of cousins could play, and I don't know, I guess I wanted to kind of join in with them, and so I was like, well, teach me something. And so guitar just happened to be laying around. We had a bunch of them, so that's how it started. And I picked it up pretty quick, and by the time I was like 7, we had a little bluegrass band, and we picked all over the place. We ended up playing the Ryman in Nashville there when I was like 7 or 8, and we was pretty good. But I never knew, like, I didn't know you could make a career out of it. I just thought people played, as a kid. I just thought you did it for fun, and so that was like never a career path. I wanted to play football or baseball or so, what all the kids do, and so I always played throughout school just because I liked to do it. And then I started writing songs when I was in high school because I got tired of playing everybody else's songs. So I was wanting to do something else. And so started writing songs in high school, and they sucked. They were terrible, but they got better as I got older. But and then I guess I started really playing in college. I went to UT Martin in West Tennessee, and I never knew I could sing, so I always just played guitar, but I would, hang out at the parties and stuff, and people get drunk enough that I would start singing a little bit, and I may have been drunk enough too, but so I would start singing a little bit, and mostly to try to pick up women, man. Like that was the whole reason I played, and so kind of did it, and people would tell me enough that, like, man, you're pretty good, you can sing pretty good. And after a while, I guess I believed it, and so I started playing the bars and kind of doing that thing, and then I found out I could make some money at it, and then enough people started showing up to watch me, and I guess it's like anything, your confidence kind of grows as enough people tell you you're good enough. And then I started I remember the first time I played, I made like $40 in the tip jar, and I was like, all right, we're on to something, like let's go. So that kind of kick started me into going that direction. And I don't know, I just always would do other jobs, and that was kind of like a side thing I would do, and just to make a little extra money to buy tires for the truck or whatever. And it just kind of, one thing led to another, and the stars aligned, and I got lucky, and it worked out.
Yeah, I remember.
Did it work with the ladies?
Oh yeah. Oh man, like it was if you can sing and you're at a party or a bar or whatever, like you're the center of attention. It doesn't matter what's going, you're the center of attention. So it helped out for sure, I can tell you that.
I remember back when you and I were talking at Tortuga, you were just kind of telling me about your construction and what you were doing there, just kind of like you mentioned the odd jobs here and there, and that was really what was making your money. And then you kind of got this attention. You met Jake and Jake Owen for those listening. And then you started doing music full time. When did you know that was going to be a career path that you could do full time?
Well, I mean, I tried to do it a few times. I was like, all right, I'm gonna take the leap here and go for it. And so that was like my main thing. I didn't work. I was just playing music. I was traveling around. I was trying to make it happen. But it's such a hard business to get into, and I had no mentors and no help or anything. So when I was like 22, I got my first songwriting deal, and so I thought that was it. And I was like, here we go, I'm about to be rich and famous. It's gonna be great. And then it didn't happen. And so for a few years go by, and I'm playing the bars and doing all that, and I'm kind of picking up odd jobs in the wintertime when it slowed down. But after a while of kind of being broke and just traveling around, I finally was like, all right, this is enough. And got with my wife, which we've been dating for a while, and so I moved to Chattanooga, and that's when right before that happened, I kind of slowed down on music and started really trying to, make my way in the construction business there. And I was doing pretty good and kind of worked my way up. And so I was doing that for like 5 years, 6 years. And I got tired. I don't know. I just needed some tires for the truck or something. I was like, I'll go make some money over here. Happened to meet my bass player, Crazy Legs, we call him. He's the dancer. And so we kind of get together. We start this little band up. And I was like, look, let's just go out. We'll make some money. We'll have a good time. But we all got regular jobs. And then when I quit caring about trying to do something, that's when it all played out. Because I had a guy call me and said, hey, I want you to come to my barn and do this little party we're having or whatever. Just come play some music. They gave me like $500. I was like, all right, cool. So I go over, I'm playing, and Jake Owen happens to walk in, sees me, and was like, what's your deal? Like, you got a record deal? And I was like, no, man, I'm pouring concrete for a living, and this is just for fun. He was like, man, you're wasting your talent. Like, you need to go for this thing. And so he gives me his number, which has happened a few times. People always want to help me out, but they're usually drunk and then they forget and they won't call me back. So at this time, I thought the same thing was going to happen. The next day, Jake called and we get to talking, and he's like, hey, look, why don't you come on the road with me and quit your job? And I was like, well, how about I come on the road with you? We'll see how it plays out. So
I don't know if quitting the job is the way to go yet.
Yeah. And I think I was like about to get married, or I just gotten married. And I was like, look, that ain't going to be cool. Let's come in, my new wife here, and be like, let's quit my job. I'm going to go out with Jake Owen. And so I said, look, I'll come out with you. First weekend I went out, we played. It was awesome. And everybody kind of liked me. And it was a huge stage. It was something different. I was like, well, this is cool. He come back and he's like, hey, you want to quit your job? I was like, I don't know, man. He was like, you got to quit that job. And so I said, well, you going to take me on the road all the time or what? He's like, yeah, let's go. So he said, next weekend, let's go. So I walked in Monday and quit my job, and which was cool. I mean, the guy was, my boss was like, look, if it don't work out, come on back, so had a little fallback plan. But I went with Jake. And then when I come back, I started writing a lot in Nashville, and then Willie Nelson took me out with him. And so I was touring around with Willie Nelson, which is like my hero. And that was cool. And then it just kind of started snowballing, really. And then, it worked out. And then I got a record deal because I become like the demo singer in Nashville. I was like singing a lot of people's demos and stuff, and they're trying to get songs recorded by the big artists. So they need somebody that can sing to come and do it for them. And so I would sing their song, and it got one song I went and sang for a buddy of mine, and it got tossed around town. And a lot of people wanted to record it, and they were wondering, all the record labels kind of wondering who was singing the song. And Jake, again, Jake walks into the record label office, and they showed him a song, and he's like, yeah, it's my buddy Larry. And they're like, man, we've been trying to figure out who this is, so can you get him in for an interview? And he's like, yeah, no doubt. So he called me, and I was like, well, my calendar is pretty clear. I was like, all right, I'll go in. And so I go sit down, and they put a record deal on the table that day, and which I was like, oh, all right, let's give this a try. And it's worked out. So that's kind of how that started.
Well, Larry, you've got a couple albums out, and in the title track of your second album, Stack of Records. Great album, by the way. Love all the music you've put out. But you talk about some of the influences that you've had throughout your music journey. I know you kind of just hit on Jake Owen and your relationship with him and how that came about. Who are some of the other artists that kind of helped you and impacted you along the way?
Yeah, thanks, man. I grew up listening to a lot of bluegrass and gospel stuff. So like, there's a lot of that influence in what I do. But really, it kind of changed for me because my dad always listened. He listened to like Merle Haggard and Hank Jr. and Alabama and all that, stuff. And then my mom kind of liked Pink Floyd and, you know, Ozzy Osbourne and like rock kind of stuff. And so I listened to all this stuff they had, and they actually had a record player, and I would go upstairs and listen to that record player, and I would try to learn how to play these songs. So I heard everybody from Willie Nelson to Ozzy Osbourne, and I just kind of soaked it all in. But the one day I remember that kind of changed for me was I heard Otis Redding, and it was like sitting on the dock of the bay, and I was like, man, what is this, you know? And so I started kind of diving into like soul music. And so I had a lot of Ray Charles. I love Ray Charles and Otis Redding and the Temptations and stuff like that. So that kind of music was something I hadn't really heard a lot of. And so that influenced me more than anything, I think, really. I mean, besides Willie Nelson is like my songwriting hero. Like, I love him, and love him or hate him, whatever, if you like his voice, but he's a legend and I don't care. But like, that dude is cool. And I wanted to write like him. I started studying how these guys put songs together. But then even me, like soul, I can't dance for nothing, but like soul music made me want to dance, you know, and it made me happy. Even if it was a sad song, it just had a cool feeling about it. And so I wanted to take that and put it into country music songwriting, country music lyrics. And that's kind of what molded my style. That's pretty much my style of country soul. If you ask me what are you, I'm like, country soul. That's what I would call that. And so I like the feel that of the soul music or what it does for you, but I like the lyrics of country music or old school country music because they were singing about something and you're usually telling a story. And so I try to do storytelling soul music is what I'm doing. And on Stack of Records, I put out Working Hard, that record first, and that was really cool. It was kind of getting our feet wet and just, you know, throwing it out like, this is kind of what I am. And it worked. And then I was like, okay, I get a full record. I wrote a song, Stack of Records, with a couple of buddies. And I was like, this pretty much describes me and my music. Like, I want to make a record of, it would almost be like you digging through a record pile and just like playing multiple records. And I want that record to feel like that, where every song is not the same and it's a little bit different. It's a little different style. So you got whatever, 13, 14 songs on there that every one of them's a little bit different. And that's kind of how we put that together. And I'm super proud of that record. I love it. And it represents me well.
Yeah, it was an unbelievable record. And one of the songwriters that you worked with very early on was Rhett Akins, and father of Thomas Rhett, big artist out now. Rhett Akins has a history of working with kind of up and coming writers and musicians. How did he help you in sort of this journey to where you are now?
Yeah, I always loved Rhett. I love what he did as an artist. And then, I don't know, he's got 30 something #1 hits as a songwriter. So he knows what he's doing. And the first day I got to write with him, I was pretty pumped up. I just want to talk to him and kind of pick his brain a little bit. And we're both huge fans of the movie Sling Blade. So like the first, and we didn't know it until we sat down together. The very first time we sat down and we just started quoting like Sling Blade quotes. And I was like, this guy's cool. He gets it, you know? And I think he thought that about me. He was like, all right, we can talk Sling Blade. And so we kind of just hit it off. And then I just told him out of the gate, I was like, look, I just want to write real songs. I just want to write real music. Like, it may not be a big radio hit, but at least we'll do something we like to do. And I think he was down for it. And from then on, we just become buddies. The day we started writing and met, and like I said, quoting Sling Blade and different things like that, we just kind of hit it off. And so we played the Grand Ole Opry together the other night. He was right behind me, and we sat and hung out, and we just become buddies. But influence wise, he's brilliant. Like, it's crazy how quick this guy is. Like, when you sit down with some people, like, they really have to think about a lot of things. And I'm one of them. I have to think about things sometimes, but he's just spouting it off, and he's very quick, and he's witty, and he's got a cool way of going about things. And I will tell you, but this dude can remember any song lyric and knows how to play any song you could possibly want to know. Like, you'll name off some 80s hair metal thing and he'll play the whole thing. Like, it's crazy. Like, he's really, really, really smart, and I like him, and he's a funny dude. And so we write a lot together, and we always write cool songs. And whether or not I go record them or not, like, they're always a pretty cool song. So
That's awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit about right now. You're currently on Morgan Wallen's Dangerous Tour. You've been on since the fall, and it's been amazing seeing some of the photos and the videos of that tour. How did that come about?
Well, I was just sitting on I was watching Swamp People one day, and I was sitting there, my phone rings, and it's Morgan. And he was like, "Hey man," he's like, "I got a tour coming up and I want you to be on it. And it'll be me, you, and Hardy." And I was like, "Yeah, sounds fun." He was like, "All right, so you want to do it?" I was like, yeah, sounds good. And I think he was maybe thinking I was going to be like, freaking out about it, but I was in a pretty intense episode of Swamp People, and that was where my attention was at. So, and I was like, I hadn't honestly, like, I knew Morgan was doing good, but I didn't realize he was as freaking big as he is. So I'm just thinking we're going to play some shows. And he was like, "All right, well, cool. Well, I think we're going to play Madison Square Garden." And I was like, "Dang, that's cool. All right." So I was like, "Yeah, I'll be on it." And so he sends me over some stuff, and I didn't think much about it. I was excited. I was like, this will be fun. But again, I just kind of went on about my day. But then all of a sudden, I was on an airplane, and I landed like in Atlanta or something. And when I landed, my phone, when it finally connected back to service, went nuts, like just blowing up. And I was like, "What in the world's going on?" So I called Ando, my manager, and I was like, "Hey, what in the world's happening, man? I'm seeing like tons of Twitter stuff popping up. And I don't really do a whole lot on Twitter." I was like, "But things are catching fire." He was like, "Yeah, they made the announcement today for Morgan's tour." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." Then I'm looking, it like sells out in like 10 minutes, and it's just the biggest thing that everybody's talking about. And so then I kind of got nervous. I was like, I had no idea that this was this big. So I started talking to some people that are like, "All right, look, you need to kind of," I'm a songwriter, so I'm a storyteller. I walk out, I play my guitar, and I tell stories at my shows, and that's kind of my thing. They're like, "This is an arena tour, so like you need to you got to step it up, So put your guitar down and start walking around on the stage holding this microphone," which is not I'm totally uncomfortable doing that. So I kind of hide behind my guitar. And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I put together this show, and our first show is Madison Square Garden. And I'm like, the first time I've ever put my guitar down and like had to hold a mic and walk around. And I power walked for 30 minutes on the stage, just like, and like, I had no idea what to do, because I've never done it. So I get done that night, and the place went crazy. It was fun. And my label, they were there, and they were like, "Hey man, like that was awesome, but like maybe tomorrow night, maybe stop, while you're walking, like just go over there and stop." And I was like, all right. And so next night I'm like, "Here we go." And like,
I'm just picturing you pacing just back and forth and back and forth.
He's running suicides. He's running suicides on the stage.
I know. I called my trainer, this lady I work out with. I was like, "Hey, I need to hit some cardio when I come back because I'm out of breath on this stage." I was just like running. Like,
oh my God.
I was so nervous. I didn't know what to do. So I was just like walking all over the place. And shoot, man, the next night I was like, "Okay, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to stop." And like, I walk over and I stop in front of these people the next night, and they start screaming. Well, I got nervous and I took off running again. I was just like, all right. And it took me a little while to get used to it, but that was completely off of what your question was. But yeah, that's how that came about. Was Morgan just calling me. I was watching Swamp People, and here we are. So
so first off, what a great show.
Thanks.
Shout out to Swamp People. But kind of staying on the same topic, there's a ton of videos. Obviously, you just talked about it on the tour of you and Morgan singing your hit "Where I Find God" together. Or sorry, I said that too Where I Find God, you guys are singing it together. What does that mean to you? Obviously, to join on tour with him and to have those videos of you guys singing that song together with a song that means so much to you and get that exposure.
Yeah, it's helped that song like a bunch. I mean, that was my first song I had on the radio. And it did good. It did all right. And
I think that was the first one Blake and I heard. No, I know for myself, that was the first one of yours that I heard, and that's definitely what got me hooked. But
yeah, that's the one that took off. Like I had, 8 songs before that, a few more that I'd done on my own, and I had a little attention around some of them, but when that come out, it just caught fire, and that's what kind of made me. That's the song that made me. And that, what you said, I mean, a lot of people, that was the first song they'd ever heard of me, ever even knew who I was at that point. So it helped. That was big, and the song did good, and it drew a lot of attention to me. But as radio kind of killed it, whenever they're like, they pulled it and it started coming down a little bit. I go out with Morgan the first night at Madison Square Garden. He was like, man, let's do a song together. I was like, all right, what do you want to do? And I thought we were going to do like an old Hank Jr. song or something, just pull out something. He was like, I want to do Where I Find God. I want to sing it. I want to sing harmonies with you. And I was like, okay, well, why don't you sing that last verse and sing some harmonies? It'd be pretty cool. He's like, all right. And we walk out very first night, Madison Square Garden. We sing that together. And it was a huge moment because it kind of got quiet because Morgan's like, he commands a stage and he does a really good job of that. But we walk out, it's just, I'm playing guitar and he's standing beside me and we're both singing. That's it. No band, nothing. So it was a big, powerful moment. And people started videoing that and like posting it. And then it kind of, you started seeing it pop up on, everything. I mean, TikTok, all that stuff. And so
TikTok's where I saw it. It was, yeah. I've seen probably 10 plus videos of that, of just that first night performance.
Oh, it kind of like, I seen one pop up the other day. It had a lot of views and a lot of stuff on it. And I was like, well, all right. So I don't know if y'all knew, but I'm pretty TikTok famous right now, I guess. But so it really took off. Well, then all of a sudden we started seeing the song, like Where I Find God, catch, a second wind pretty much. And it shoots back up. And then, so it becomes a thing that we started doing every night. And then me and Morgan locked in like harmony wise, and it's good. And there's a lot of times we'll start singing it and I'll look over and the hair on his arm is standing up. Mine is too, just because it's like, it's a crazy moment. It gets really quiet. 20,000 people get quiet. And then all of a sudden now from TikTok, all this other stuff, people that had no idea who I was now know who I am. And they're all singing that song. And then like the other night we were playing in Green Bay, or I think it was, and then they like phones come out with the lights on, and like they're singing along. It's a big moment, man. And it's really helped the song out. And I appreciate Morgan doing that, because that was pretty cool. So.
We want to talk about a few things, not music related, just about who Larry Fleet is. One of the things that you're super passionate about is your family and your kids. And I just wanted you to kind of tell us about Waffle House, those trips, how important that trip is to you each week when you get back off the road, and spending time with your family, because, being gone every weekend it's got to be hard. And Reed is finding that out on the football side, but in music, it's a very similar type of thing where you're gone for a couple of days every single week. Tell us about Waffle House and how important those moments are with your kids.
Yeah. I love that Waylon loves Waffle House, because I love Waffle House too. And it became a thing. One morning we were sitting around and, my wife was like, why don't y'all go to breakfast or something? Like, I think because we have a little girl named Stella that just turned a year old the other day, and she was probably doing something and tearing up something. So she was like, why don't y'all get out of the house? So this is how it starts. And me and Waylon get in the car and we go to Waffle House. and because it's right up the street from the house, and we walk in and he's like mesmerized by watching them cook. He thought that was so cool. And so we go in, we pick our seat out, and he watches them cook. And then the next day he's like, Waffle House. I was like, oh, okay, go back to Waffle House. So it becomes a thing where we're going like multiple times a week. And now we go, and everybody knows, you know, as soon as Waylon walks in, they're like, Waylon, and it's like cheers in there, you know. And so we go and we sit down, and he's got his own little Waffle House hat. He has a name tag. He brings everybody suckers, like it's family, you know. And but what's cool is like that's our time, because my wife has our daughter, and they're doing their thing. Me and Waylon go do our thing, and that's go to Waffle House. And a lot of times we'll go to Bass Pro Shop, or we'll go do something that day. We kind of have a day, and he loves it. He just likes being, you know, he likes going and eating his waffle, and he likes hanging out with his old man. And I like hanging out with him. We go to Waffle House, we look at stuff, and or go to Bass Pro afterwards and look at stuff. And you know, it's just a fun thing to do, because you're right. Like I hit the road a lot of times Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday night at midnight or so. I get on my bus, we take off where we got to go, and I come back sometime on Sunday most of the time. So he's getting to the age where, you know, every time I leave, he's like, Daddy, gotta go to work. I'm like, yep, gotta go to work. He's like, all right. And then at first it was cool because he would see these videos, he would see all the stuff of me playing. And so he's got a guitar, he wants to play. Like, it was a thing. And now it's like, I want to go to work with you, you know? So it's getting tougher because he'll be 3 in August, and he kind of understands I'm not there. And that got, you know, that sucks. So whenever I am home, we hang out all the time. So like this morning we got up, he was like, let's go on a worm hunt. He loves hunting for worms in the yard. So we go out there, I'm flipping over every rock we got in the yard, or any piece of wood or whatever. And like flipping over stuff, he's digging, he's finding worms, catches those bugs, whatever. We wash the golf cart. Like, we just hang out like boys, you know, we just do stuff. And I make sure I do that. And my little girl, like I said, she's 1, and I spend a lot of time with her too. But like when they're 1 to go to like between 1 and 2, they're starting to understand what's going on. They recognize people, like, but about 2 and older, they're really starting to comprehend some stuff. And that becomes a hard thing, because he doesn't like when I leave, and I don't like to leave. But so anytime I get at the house, to answer your question, anytime I got, man, we're hanging out, we're doing stuff. And it's little stuff, man, like worm hunting, going to Waffle House, like little things like that. But then sometimes we'll go, I flew them out to San Antonio the other day, and we went to the zoo and got the rock star treatment. So like we walk in, we had like our own personal like tour guide of the zoo. They let us feed lettuce to the giraffe, and like got to touch a rhino. And he was like, this is nuts. Like, he was losing his mind. So it's pretty cool to be able to do that for him and see that. And, you know, it's sucks being away, but anytime I got at the house, I'm making it worth it. So
I know I mentioned that I was going to go away from the music thing, but I just, because you mentioned the San Antonio trip, I wanted to kind of acknowledge that was pretty cool for you, because you had your family there for the show. What was that like, having them there, and just knowing that, you know, Daddy wasn't going away this time. Y'all were coming with him.
Yeah, that was really cool. And it was, I mean, I've worked, you know, in this business, like you do cool things and you work with cool people, and I work with a jet company called Cessna. They make jets. And so this was a really cool thing that I got to do for them. I played a show for Cessna, so they give me some hours on a private jet or whatever. So I was like, all right, y'all, like Waylon loves airplanes. So I was like, send that jet over there and put him on it. And so they flew over to Chattanooga, and they picked my whole family up. And so they get to fly on this little jet over there. And so Waylon ate every snack they had on that thing. And he was like up there hanging out with the pilot, like taking pictures. He was loving it. So that was another experience that he got to have that, you know, most people don't get to, I mean, I would have never gotten to have that, you know. I just got lucky and worked with these cool people, and they took care of me on that. So he gets to go. And then, like I said, we get there, and we go to the zoo, and then he gets to come to the show, and like, well, everybody did, but he really got to see it. Like his first show, he was a month old, and I was playing with Willie Nelson and Allison Krauss, and that was our little package show we had. And his first show, he was a month old, and he got to come to that. He don't remember that, but now he does. And he was like wanting to get on the stage in San Antonio, and he was like, look at all these people. Like, he was in overload. And then we played at that arena, so it's where the Spurs play. And so they brought their mascot out, which is a coyote. And he thought this was like an actual coyote that was wearing a jersey. And like, they brought him toys, and like, it was this thing, man. And that's all he talked about was the airplane, going to the zoo, going to Daddy's show, watching Daddy work. And he calls my bass player Paw because he's like the oldest guy in the group, you know. And I made a joke one time because we're picking him because he is the oldest of all of us, and I was like, oh, Paw over there. Well, Waylon started calling him Paw, and he loves Eric, and so he's like, Paw, Daddy and Paw going to work. I'm like, yep. So he got to see Daddy and Paw do their thing, you know. And then afterwards, like, he's meeting all these cool people. He's seeing all this cool stuff. And then he sees 15, 20,000 people out there, you know, cheering his daddy on. That's pretty cool. And he was fired up. He was pumped up. Stella was asleep, but Waylon was in, you know. And so it was a pretty cool thing. And that, I always love that. It makes me feel better because to be honest, man, after about 2 or 3 days being gone, I start kind of hitting depression. Like, it's real. Like, I don't know. I just don't like being gone that much. So having them come out in the middle of that run, it kind of gives me another breath of air to kind of keep going. So it gets a little lonely out there, as y'all probably know. Y'all travel too. So.
Well, Larry, can you talk a little bit about your faith journey and kind of how you've grown since becoming, you know, since stepping into this music industry world that can be just a lot of highs, a lot of highs, a lot of lows, you know, like you said, time away from your family and stuff like that. How do you balance that with your faith life, and talk a little bit about your faith journey?
Well, yeah, this business is a tough one on you. There's a lot of things to pull you in a lot of different directions, but where I got lucky, I guess, was if you would give me, you know, I guess, whatever, all this stuff that I've got right now, if you'd have given me that when I was 24, I would have blew it because I had a different mindset. But I guess, you know, what really helps me out is going with my family. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. So that, and I kind of put people around me that make me feel good, that kind of help me out be better and stuff like that. And as far as faith goes, man, we're the most, like, what you think of entertainers, and like, you know, you watch movies and you see people like throwing down backstage and like parties, all this stuff. Me and my band will have Bible discussions, you know, like we get pretty wild, and it's like that. So we talk a lot. I mean, anytime you get on the bus, man, there's a Bible sitting right there on the table. So
Love that.
But I'm the singer of Where I Find God. So that is, I'm so happy that worked out like that, because the first song that they were trying to put out was for radio was Mixing with Whiskey, which is a cool song. I like playing. I play it every night, but it doesn't really represent exactly who I am. So what does is Where I Find God. So that pretty much laid it out to people, like, hey, this is what you're going to get. And that's what you get. Like, you ain't going to talk me into anything. I'm a grown man, and I know what I'm doing. So as far as faith goes, I mean, I've got a good support group. I got a good band that they think like I do, and I'm able to deliver a song with a message like that has helped out a ton of people, and I love it. Like, so I really push for that kind of thing. And I want to use, any platform I got to, I'm not hiding anything, I guess what I'm saying. So I use that. I do gospel songs. You want to talk about God, come on, we'll talk, you know what I mean? Like, I love it. So, as far as your question goes, I mean, if you'd have given it to me 10 years ago, it'd have been a talk, but right now, man, I am who I am, and that's what you're going to get. And so my faith is strong, and it could be better different days, you know how it is, but it's like, we try to keep it good. And we don't really drink much. We don't, we pretty calmed out guys. We got a job to do. We all got families, and like, that's the most important thing to us. So we kind of keep that in our head, and we're a little different than a lot of people, but I kind of like it.
Love it. So switching gears here just a little bit. So we're obviously in our off season right now. Sort of, we're both obviously in our respective cities, doing some workouts and practice stuff going on right now. But for the most part, we're taking advantage of the off time in the afternoons we got, whatever, doing, like the podcast, we enjoy doing it, and some other hobbies we got. When you're not on tour, for me, I'm thinking, okay, that's probably you see as your off season, when you're you get to chill with your family, you get some extra time. You're not, floating around on the road all the time. But what are a couple of your hobbies that you like to do in your off season, quote unquote?
Yeah, my off season is usually like November. Sometime in November, we really stop and kind of really slow down. So usually around November till about the end of January is our off season, and that just happens to fall on duck season. And so how
fitting.
Yeah, I know, right? And so I do a lot of duck hunting, and I like deer hunting and stuff too, but duck hunting's fun. That's my favorite thing to do. And so I usually every year at the end of November, I go down to South Alabama, little place called Bay Minette, Alabama. And
we passed that on the way to Baton Rouge from Atlanta.
That's right.
There you go. It's a little place.
Pass that on I-10.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's so my buddy lives down there, and they have this hunting club that's in the swamp on the Tensas River. And it's a little hunting club, and they go and they have dogs, and we hunt islands for deer. So we like ride a boat, and we stay in the swamp on this like this little army bunkhouse kind of thing. And we're roughing it, you know what I mean? It's pretty fun though. There's a bunch of us. And so that's how the off season starts. I go there, it's right before Thanksgiving, and we do a big deer hunt. We kill deer and hogs. They have a bunch of wild pigs running around. So we go out there and we see gators. We see it's wild, man. But like we start the year there, coming back, we hit Thanksgiving, and then I'll start getting the waders out and getting ready to go duck hunting. And so I'll make a few duck hunting trips. And then honestly, like we travel, we go, as a family, we'll go do some stuff, and we'll go back and see my family. We'll try to go to a couple little vacation, like mini vacation things, and we'll kind of do that. But as hobby wise, man, it's always duck hunting. That's my thing for off season.
Love it.
I can attest to this being true. Our game that we played in Nashville last year was right after New Year's. It was like January 2nd. And I texted Larry like the week or two before. I was like, hey man, you want to come out to the game? Nah, I'm going duck hunting that weekend. I can't. So we'll have to get you out at some point later on. But I know that's true. That time is very, very valuable. You don't get those weekends back.
No, it's fun. And I can't wait till the kids get old enough to take them out. And I've took my wife hunting a few times, so we do that. And then I kind of got into golf too, so like if we have a little time, I've got some good clubs and stuff. We'll throw them on the bus, and if we got a little downtime, I'll try to play some golf. And then I thought I was smart. I was like, all right, I'm gonna get my wife some golf clubs, for Christmas. And she hasn't even pulled them out and tried to even swing one yet. But in my head, I was like, if she can play golf too, then I can play more golf. So
that's a free pass for
you
sure.
know, right? So we do a lot of different things, man. But that's us, man. We hang out with the kids, we do cool stuff, and I like to duck hunt. So
Love it. So this is obviously, after all, this is a primarily football related podcast. So we, I had to bring this up, and we chatted a little bit before we started recording, but John Andolina, your main guy, your manager, is a huge Bills fan. Obviously, music to my ears. Love to hear it. Got to get you a different jersey to put on, but we'll talk about that later. Is he? He's from Rochester, I believe. Is that what you said? So that's that. Right in the heart of Bills country. That's where we do training camp and stuff up there. Is he known? Are you aware of him doing any of the Bills Mafia related activities, such as, I don't know, breaking tables, jumping off RVs? How crazy are we talking about John?
This guy, we call him Ando. Ando's that's his street name. And then if he's doing business, it's Jonathan. And so, but Ando is the Bills fan, and he every single day has a Bills hat on. It doesn't matter if it goes with whatever. Like it always
matches everything.
Everything. Like he could go to church in that thing. I mean, whatever. He's got it on every single day. And on Sundays, whenever football season's going on, don't even call it, because especially if y'all lose, it's a bad day. And like things get broke, he's gotten drunk, and it's like it's gonna be bad. But that is the biggest Bills fan I've ever seen, man. And he eats and breathes it, man. It's like everything is Bills. All over his truck is Bills stuff. And then the other day he was like, I had this jersey, and he was like, man, we gotta get you a Bills jersey. And I was like, well,
no, sir.
And so I don't know.
Tell him he needs a Dolphins jersey. That's what he needs.
That's what it is. Yeah. He made a call or did something. I don't know. And he sent me a picture, and his whole bed was completely full of 2X Bills clothes and everything. He was like, I got you, bro. And so I don't know. He's trying to convert me, but we was in where was we at the other night? Oh, Kansas City. And I was talking to Tommy Townsend, and
it's my boy. We've had him on the pod before.
Okay.
Yeah, he's been on before.
We were talking, and he's like, so what, who do you root for, man? Like, who's your team? And I was like, honestly, as I've gotten older, I mean, I was always a Titans fan because I grew up in Tennessee, but that was our team. But as I've gotten older and I've got to make friends with all with y'all and everybody else, and it's like, I'm a fan of the players now. They're like friends. I want to see everybody do good, and same thing with like NASCAR. Like they're like, who's your guy? I'm like, well, I've got a few of them, It's like, I'm friends. I just want to see my friends do good. And so that's kind of the way it is. So I've got different jerseys and stuff, and I cheer for everybody, man. Like I'm not the diehard. I'm not Ando. You know what I mean? He'll go down as a Bills fan. He doesn't care. So
I think there's another Nashville member of Bills Mafia in Eric Van Houten. Do you know him at all? I think he's from Buffalo. I'm not. Do you know who? Okay. We will have to get confirmation on that, but I think he's from Buffalo. I've heard a little bit of his music, but
our producer wanted us to ask you if you knew Eric Van Houten.
I don't.
I think I think Blake mentioned he's from Buffalo, but I'm not sure. Obviously, he's a noted Bills fan, but not sure if there was a connection there or not.
Got some Bills Mafia down in Nashville, I guess. But
hey, there's a lot more than you think. I mean, at our record label, there's 2 or 3 girls that, diehard Bills fans. So
we played there. We played there a couple years ago. I think it was the 19 season, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And I'm pretty sure it was close to 50-50 Bills Titans fans. Like it was loud. It was loud. Our sideline was very loud.
Yeah. Hey, it's funny,
Plus,
man.
it's a
like,
great city to travel to, so you're always going to get
Right.
a lot of away fans anyway. But yeah, a lot of Bills fans down in Nashville for sure.
it's funny how many Bills fans you meet just down on the road, because Ando's with me a lot, and he, like I said, he's always got his Bills hat on, and like we'll just be randomly walking around in Kansas or something, and they'll be like holler out something, or whatever.
Go Bills.
Yeah, go. And he's like, yeah, and it's like, we're in Kansas, like what? But it's weird.
They're everywhere.
They're everywhere.
They have to be one of the most proud fan bases for sure. I remember when
100%.
we were at Tortuga, there were like Josh Allen jerseys, at one night, and then 2 nights later there was like some people walking around in like the Bills Zubaz pants. Like they're everywhere. But
They're everywhere.
so last couple of questions before we get into a few fun short snaps for you. Let's talk about your band for just a second. I was fortunate to meet a few of those guys, Crazy Legs included, in Fort Lauderdale for Tortuga. How did that group kind of come together, and how have y'all just become a road family? I know you guys spend a lot of time together. You mentioned, a lot of those Bible talks and just intentional conversations. How have y'all grown together?
Yeah, well, Crazy Legs has been with me the longest. His name's Eric Brown, but he how we met's pretty cool, because when I first moved to Chattanooga, a guy heard that I was I played. There's not a whole lot of different singers and stuff around in Chattanooga, but I guess people talked about me being over here or something. So this random guy hits me up on Facebook one night and was like, hey, could you come and play at this bar? My singer laid out or whatever. So can you come and sing for my band? And I was like, yeah, send me a set list. And I knew most of the songs. So I was like, I got you. So I show up to sing for this guy's band, and the bass player filling in is Crazy Legs. And the drummer that was filling in was my old buddy Dave, and Petty John that's with me too. He's my guitar tech. It was all of us playing together. And so after the show, I was like, man, these guys are good. Y'all want to come play for me? And they're like, yeah, let's start up a band. So we did. And Petty John, he's a good guitar player, but I've got a different guy that has been with me for a while. But Eric come with me, and we just hit it off, and we just have a good time. He's one of my best friends, and we're always doing stuff. But whenever things started progressing, he said, look, I'll quit my job. I'll go with you anywhere. Like, if you want to do this, let's go. So I said, all right. So I took him out, and I had a different drummer at the time, and now we got a brand new drummer. He just come on to the beginning of the year with us, and his name's Cam McLaren, and he's a monster on the drum kit. But he's a real cool dude from North Carolina, and Cam is. But Eric is from Chattanooga, and he's, like I say, he's been with me the longest. But Crazy Legs come about. So I just got to notice him one night. We were jamming, and his legs are just flailing around like what's that, the wacky inflatable arm flailing tube man, the selling on the roof. He looked like that playing bass. And I was like, that's pretty cool. And so afterwards I was like, man, where'd you learn them dance moves? He was like, dude, I think the spirit moved me, and I don't know, I just started dancing. And so it become a
Good
thing.
answer.
Yeah. I was like,
And if you know his personality, that's like, right, that is him for sure.
no, he is, he's out there, but he's so funny. People love him. And so there's been a lot of shows we'll play, and people start chanting Crazy Legs, like they cheer him on. And if that starts happening, them legs get to moving. And but he's got great dance moves, and I don't know how he does it. But and then Xander, he's my guitar player. He's the blonde-headed dude. He is he's like a savant on that stuff. He could play anything with strings on it. And his mom actually played for Elvis, and his granny played for Frank Sinatra. And
Holy cow.
And then his dad played.
It's a pretty good bloodline there.
Right.
You talk about professional
Holy
athletes who have
moly.
like people whose dad played in the NFL or whatever. This is like the family lineage in music.
This is it. And he can play anything. He's jazz, country, bluegrass, whatever you want to play, he can play it. But he's got this history of music in his blood. And then his dad played for, was it Lyndon B. Johnson? I think is who it was, Nixon, and then, Johnson. But he was in the Marine Corps band, and they were the president's band. So like he would play for the president all the time and stuff. But it's pretty cool. So that's
incredible.
him. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And so he's awesome, man. We love him. We call him Catfish because he got real drunk one night, and like he's so smart that he's like we don't understand half the stuff he's talking about anyways. He's too smart. And then he got a little drunk one night and starts rambling, and I was like, oh, Catfish back here. So it kind of stuck, and like I don't know. He's not a drunkard by no means. Like it's just one night he had a night, you know what I mean? And so I started calling him Catfish, and it kind of stuck. But so we call him Catfish, and then Steven, he's the keys player, and he's been with me for, I don't know, 2-3 years now. And it's just whenever I put together a band, I'm in my head, and I actually think this, and I want all of us to be 80 years old playing together. Like that's when I put people together, your family, we're a thing, and we're going to play so forever is my goal. Because I like I said before, one of the first people I went out with was Willie Nelson, and that's what he has done. He built his band, and they stay together forever, like 50 years. They're going to die on the stage, and that was our goal. And so that's kind of what I've done. I put this good group of people together. We have Stephanie that does all of our photography work, sells merch, whatever else. I mean, she's running around doing all kinds of stuff. So we just have a lot of people doing a lot of different things, and we all love each other. We all get along. We all make fun of Catfish all the time. And he's usually the guy we're picking at the most, but he's a good sport. And it's just a good group of people to have. And if you're going to be on the road and you're living in a bus together, you want to be getting along with everybody, and we all do. So
well, okay, so where would you say that you see yourself, in 5 and then maybe 10 years down the road?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of progressed. I mean, whenever I first met with Ando and the guys to take me on as for management, they asked me, they said, what is your goal? Like, what do you want to do in 5 years? And I said, I want to play theaters. That's where I want to get to. And theaters is my thing. I can see everybody. I can talk. It's way more intimate. It's more one-on-one with the people out there. And we got there and then just kept on going. And so, and it happened quicker than 5 years. I mean, it was pretty quick. And so I don't really know. I mean, honestly, I don't want to limit myself, and just say, well, this is the only thing I want to do, because I never thought I would play arenas, but I'm there playing them right now, and it's pretty cool. It's a good feeling, and it's to play in front of that many people every night and kind of see you can make an impact with music. And if you can sing to 15, 20,000 people a night, like you might be reaching somebody in the crowd, that needs it. But so I like that. But honestly, man, 5 years, I hope to be headlining, bigger festivals and that. And then 10 years, man, like hopefully in 10 years, like
stadium tour,
baby. And you just hope to be established, like for me anyways. I just want to, I'm getting there, but it's like, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of steps to go, and I just want to go where I'm supposed to go and do what I'm supposed to do. But so I'm along for the ride, and I try to make the most of everything and honestly take it all in, because that was one of the things I was wanting to jump, just keep going and want the next thing. And Ando told me one day, he said, man, slow down and soak it in, because dude, you're playing Madison Square Garden. Like, this is pretty cool. Just soak it in. And then even for the theaters, man, just take that all in too.
One of the things, just following up off of that, that I was just curious about in when you're talking about goal setting and things like that, do you look at like do you want to have a platinum record, or are you thinking more about like the live shows? How do you kind of like, where are your goals just in terms of like radio, streams and all of those side of things versus the live shows?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think goal wise, yeah, I would love to have a platinum record. And honestly, I would love a gold record. I'm think I'm getting pretty close to one right now, but like, I don't know. I don't keep up with all that stuff, but it's doing pretty good. And I would love to have that on my wall that says, hey, you did it. You know what I mean? Like, if you get that gold record, like that kind of symbolizes, you know, I guess success or whatever, but like, I would love to have that. And I don't know. I mean, I'm working on, you know, trying to set up my own foundation and stuff. Like that's a big thing for me. And hopefully I'm getting that together. We're working on it this year and stuff, and hope to use whatever I got for, you know, more good. But I think one goal I had was to play the Grand Ole Opry, and I've got to play it twice now. So my new goal is I want to be a member of the Grand Ole Opry. And so like, that's one thing that I'm working towards, and I'm going and playing it and doing what I need to do. But I want a radio hit. I thought I had it with Where I Find God. I thought it was a strong song. I in my head, I was like, oh, this is a no brainer. This is going to be a number one, but it didn't work out like that. It could come back and do something, but I would love to have that because that's another milestone. And, you know, so love a big hit. Want to be a member of the Grand Ole Opry. And honestly, I want my own bus so that I can bring my family out, and that be the family bus. Then there's a band bus. And so
Waylon's bus.
Waylon's bus. And so that's kind of a new thing too. I definitely want that sooner than later.
So speaking of headlining, you just hit on it a little bit, but you recently announced your upcoming One for the Road tour with a few stops: St. Louis, Chicago, New York, just kind of among others. What are one or two things that you're really looking forward to most about that tour coming up?
Well, that tour I get 90 minutes. So when I'm out with Morgan, I get 30, and which is about 6 or 7 songs. And so I like to play, and I want to play for at least 90 minutes. Most of the time, if I'm headlining something, I'll play as long as people want to hang around. And so that's one thing. I get more time, and I get to play more songs, and I get to interact with the crowd more. And when you're headlining, they're coming to see you. So it's, you know, now where I'm at with Morgan, they're there to see Morgan, and they just happen to see me. And there's a few people like, huh, I like this guy. He's cool. So I might pick up a few fans every night. But if you're coming to my headlining show, you're coming to see me. And so I like that. And I always try to make it a point to connect with the crowd. And these venues are a little smaller, so they're anywhere from, you know, 700 to 1,500 people rooms. So it's still a good amount of people, but they're smaller compared to what I'm doing now. So I should be able to connect with the crowd, and that's what I like to do. That when I'm playing, I want to connect, and I can do it with that kind of thing. So that size room, and I'm looking forward to that. And we get to do our own thing. We make it our, you know, it's not just about me, it's about the band, and we play different, you know. So each night might be, when I'm with Morgan, it's about the same every night. You have to get a set together to fit into 30 minutes, and you can't go over. So like, it has to stay pretty much the same. But whenever I headline, you know, if it's a smaller room, you might show up and I might walk out and we might be playing upright bass and acoustic, and there might be banjo. Like, we might do it a full blown acoustic show. And then the next night might be honky tonk and whatever, you know, like, so every night's going to be different. I like that, because if I was going to watch a show and there's people buying multiple shows, like somebody hit me up the other day and they bought like tickets to 5 different shows. They're coming to 5, one person's coming to 5 different shows. So I don't want to give them the same show every night. I want them to, if I went to 5 shows to watch one band, I want to see something different. So that's what I'm going to do. And we get to kind of do our own thing and have a little more freedom with it. And that's what I'm looking forward to the most.
Well, that's awesome. The last thing that we have for you on the pod today, and thanks for spending so much time with us. This has been unbelievable, the insight that you've given to us into who Larry Fleet is. The last thing that we would like to do with all of our interviews is called short snaps. This is a couple short questions that just are fun and just kind of give us some insight into your personality. So the first one that we have for you is your favorite venue that you've played so far.
Ryman Auditorium, no doubt, hands down. I mean, that's my favorite thing. Madison Square Garden was really cool because of what it is, but all-time favorite is the Ryman Auditorium.
Next two kind of go together. The first question is, if you could do a collaboration in country music with anyone living or dead, who would it be?
Willie Nelson. That would be bucket list stuff for me.
Willie Nelson. So the next question would be, if you could do a CMT Crossroads with anybody living or dead, who would it be?
Nora Jones.
Very nice. This question comes from a Sunday night football game that Reed played in Kansas City back this past fall. They had a break in the action, some weather delays, and they were standing around eating their PB&J sandwiches. And Reed says, man, this PB&J has way too much peanut butter on it. And long story short, it ends up making it on the broadcast. And they talked about how
the NBC sideline reporter was in the hallway with us. So she overheard our conversation and started chatting with us about it. That's how it ended up on the. It ends up
making the broadcast. It ends up making the broadcast that the Bills had too much peanut butter on their sandwiches. So our question is, what's the perfect PB&J ratio?
I gotta disagree. I'm more of a peanut butter guy, so I would say 75% peanut butter, and I need it thick.
My
That's 2 weeks in a row.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Big peanut butter.
I think the sandwiches we were eating were like darn near 80-20.
You're pushing it. I like a good. I'm a strawberry jelly kind of guy.
Okay, same.
75-25.
75-25 is good. Yeah, 70-30. I can go with that too. But I gotta have it.
Reed, that's 2 weeks in a row. The
peanut butter. I'm 60-40 hard 60-40. No more, no less. No more, no less. 60-40 peanut butter. Okay. No more, no less.
I can get on board with that. I can do that too, but I'm a peanut butter guy. So. And are you crunchy or are you creamy?
Creamy, but if the option was there, so my wife likes the creamy, just like the normal. But if I had a choice between creamy or like the semi crunchy, not like the extra crunchy with the whole peanuts in them, but I don't mind a little bit of crunch.
Okay, I can get on board with that. All
right, last two: tour bus or sleeping in your bed. If you take family out of it, being away from family, would you rather sleep on the tour bus or sleep in your own bed?
My bed.
Okay. I've had a lot of people that I've talked to say that they enjoy the tour bus a little bit because it has the kind of shake to it and it kind of lulls you to sleep. But
most people are not as wide as me. So
that's true.
I'm as wide as a bunk.
That's true.
So I don't have much room to go. So.
And then the last one is large crowd. I think I know the answer to this. Large crowd or smaller intimate venue?
I'm more the intimate venue kind of guy. But large crowds are fun too. So.
Hard to argue with 20,000 people.
If people are there, I don't care. It's good.
Well, man, thank you so much for coming on. This has been so much fun for us. Love the jersey. Shout out for sporting the aqua and orange. If you want to follow Larry on social media, you can follow him at Larry Fleet, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all of the socials. And if you want to buy tickets to his upcoming One for the Road tour, you can find them at larryfleet.com. Larry, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank y'all, man. It's been a good day.
Well, a huge thank you to Larry for joining us on this week's episode. Reed, I really loved when he mentioned about his little boy, Waylon. I know and you can relate to being on the road, being away from a child. It's got to be really hard, but just the relationship that they have, it seems like they have a really, really tight-knit relationship and they just love each other a ton.
Yeah, can definitely empathize with Larry there, obviously spending some time away from family, traveling for, football stuff and whatnot. But I thought one of the coolest things is what he followed up with was kind of having that one-on-one time at where other than our favorite breakfast spot, Waffle House. So yeah, I mean, that was a great interview. Larry did a great job. Super appreciative of him coming on. Like I mentioned, got to get him a Bills jersey. But yeah, pretty cool, man. He's a nice guy.
Yeah. That's a wrap on this week's episode of After the Snap. As always, you can follow us on social media at After the Snap Pod. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Full episodes are up on YouTube as we speak. Find us in all of those places. We are on Linktree. I think it's link.tree/afterthesnap. All of our social media. Go find us. This has been After the Snap, tales from two brothers who live life upside down.